So this is the book. And the thing I always like to say about the book, really before anything else, is that this is my mother-in-law's painting, and it hangs in our living room. This is just a detail of the top left quadrant. That it's funny because and the reason that is because my publishing house sent me a bunch of things, and one of them was really pretty and abstract, and everybody loved it. And I was like, yeah, but we have something better hanging on my wall. Let me take a picture. And so they used it. It was very thrilling to me. And then my younger daughter, is a photographer, and she took that picture. Isn't that so great?
That's fabulous.
It's like the only picture of myself I like. It's because I'm looking at someone I love so much, that I can manage to look at it. And then my other daughter, who is a painter and a drawer, she did all of these little, you might have had a galley, so you might not get this, but there's a little drawing after every title of every story. So anyway, it's all very artistic in our family, and I like that very much.
Oh gosh, I love that it's a family that so much of your family is in it, as well as you. That is so beautiful.
I love it too. It makes me really just kind of love the physical book more than I ever have. It's just a little treasure for me. The only person who's missing is my husband, but I've already identified the painting on the wall that he did for my next book. It's perfect, and I really hope my publishing house agrees.
I love it. I can't wait.
Thanks. So anyway, I haven't answered your question, but these span quite a number of years, like 2 decades basically, of writing short stories. And I usually just write them. I mean, I wrote them in high school and in college and in grad school, but none of the short stories that I wrote then made it here. But afterwards, I started writing short stories kind of in between breaks of novels. When I was in between novels, and then when I got stuck and I just needed to take a long break and explore something else and play around with something that didn't involve quite as large a commitment. And so I've been doing that for, probably the first one was written in like 98 or 99 when I was writing my first novel.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I wanted to ask, how much did you think about order? Because I felt like the stories flowed so interestingly into each other and provided such interesting contrasts, but also connections. Was that something you thought about a lot?
A lot, yeah. My editor and I worked really hard on that. I mean, there were things, 4 of them are from a male point of view. And so we wanted to kind of separate those. And then a few of them have adolescents in them, and we wanted to kind of separate those too. And then 3 of them have narrators who eventually, if they're not already writers, they kind of eventually will become writers. And at first I thought maybe that was sort of a triptych that would be separate, or maybe at the end or something like that. But then I felt like it was better to kind of start there, like have them, I think of them as sort of 3 pillars that are holding up the collection. And so Creature, we start with a 14-year-old narrator who discovers in the course of this part of her summer that she loves to write, and she reveals to us that she would become a writer in the future. And then in Timeline, it's kind of a woman in her 20s, just starting to make a commitment to writing. And then The Man at the Door, the last story, is a more mature writer, but still not a successful writer, not a writer who's published anything, has published a book yet, but much closer to it. So
I feel like the way you write about the development of writers, and I mean, that first story, this young woman kind of reading Jane Eyre, which is such a rite of passage, I think, for for many writers. I don't know, maybe just for me, but I was like, oh yes, the summer I read Jane Eyre, and you know, it's just, I feel like you tap into this moment where of all the knowing that teenagers have at that moment, and all the things that they don't know. They're so knowledgeable. They've observed so much, particularly these teenagers who are kind of tuned into the writing, the observing. They've lived through a lot, but also they haven't processed any of it, and they kind of have no idea. And I feel like you write about that moment, that cusp moment, such a poignant way. It's really electric.